Hello everyone, and welcome to my GH Full channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Willow stood outside the iron gates of Ironwood Correctional Facility, the wind blowing her auburn hair in her face like a rebuke. The sky above was the color of old dishwater, and the air smelled like rust and distant rain. She had driven 3 hours from Port Charles, past the same billboards and petrol stations where she had previously stopped with Michael to have coffee and pretend their life were normal. Her hands trembled on the driving wheel the entire trip, not due to the cold, but because of the letter folded in her pocket. The paper was thin, nearly translucent, and the ink was slightly smudged from weeks of thumbing over it. The letter arrived on Tuesday, sandwiched between a hospital bulletin and a credit card offer. There was no return address on the envelope. Only her name was typed in block letters. Inside, a single sheet reads, "I am your father. I've been here for 12 years. If you want to know the truth, come to Ironwood. Request inmate 47291. Do not tell anyone. No signature. Just that." She had not told Michael. She had not told Carly, Jocelyn, or Sasha, who had been her closest confidant in the aftermath of everything. She told herself it was because she needed to be certain, but the truth was more sinister. She was scared of what the truth would cost her. Her life, while frail, was founded on half-truths and opportune omissions. Harmony had raised her alone, moving from commune to commune, always fleeing from something Willow never understood. Willow missed the mother she wished she'd had rather than the one she did. Nina, beautiful, crazy Nina, had flown in with her DNA tests and tears, claiming Willow for her own. Madeline Reeves' lost daughter. The miracle. But the letter stated differently. The guard at the gate barely looked at her ID, grunting, "Visitation's almost over," and waving her through. The metal detector beeped at the underwire in her bra, and she stood there, arms extended, as a female officer patted her down with clinical disinterest. Her heart beat so loudly that she was certain they could hear it. This is a mistake, she thought. Turn around. Go home. Burn the letter. But her feet continued to move. The visiting room was a beige box with plastic chairs anchored to the ground. A few other people sat slumped over tables, whispering to guys in orange jumpsuits. Willow's name was called, and she followed a guard down a corridor smelling of bleach and misery. The man waiting for her was slimmer than she imagined, with gray hair rather than brown, but those eyes were hers. The same hue of stormy hazel, with faint crow's feet at each corner. When she entered, he stood, and they both gazed for a time. "Willow," he muttered, his voice cracking at the second syllable. She did not sit. "Who are you?" "Jonah Corinthos." He confessed. "Your father." The name struck her like a blow. Corinthos. Not Reeves. Not Miller. Corinthos. The family she had married into. The one that had consumed her completely. Michael's family. Sonny's blood. "You're lying," she whispered. He shakes his head. "I wish I were." He spoke everything in a low voice that she had to lean in to hear. He and Harmony had fallen in love as teenagers. She had gotten pregnant at 17, and her parents had put her to a facility for unwed mothers. How Jonah enrolled in the army to provide for them, only to return home to find Harmony gone and the baby adopted away. How he devolved, drugs, petty crime, and a bungled heist that got him here. He'd seen her face on the news years later, during the Nina scandal, and known. "It is just known. I tried to write," he explained. "Dozens of times. They all returned unopened. I assumed you were better off." Willow's knees buckled and she collapsed into the chair. "Nina isn't your mother," he concluded. "She is a liar. Always has been." The words should have provided some relief. They were not. They were detonations. She drove home, dazed, with the note crumpled in her fist. Kelly's, the hospital, and the park where she and Michael had their first date all faded into the background of Port Charles. She parked outside the Quartermain gate and waited for the engine to cool. Michael was inside, most likely reading to Wiley, and waiting for her with that gentle smile that made her believe in second chances. She couldn't face him. Not yet. Instead, she visited the hospital. To the laboratory. She still had access, perks of being a nurse, and drew her own blood before bribing a tech with coffee and a sob story to perform a hasty paternity test. The results arrived at 2 a.m., emailed to her phone while she sat in the parking lot, chain-smoking cigarettes she had swore off years before. There is a 99.9% match. Jonah Corinthos was her father. Nina wasn't. The following week was a haze of lies. She told Michael that she had the flu. Carly was told she needed space. Sasha was told she was processing old grief. She returned to Ironwood twice more, each time learning more about the man she had been missing her whole life. He remembered the color of her infant blanket, yellow with small ducks. He has a scar on his left knee from falling off his bike while riding to the hospital the day she was born. He cried when she showed him a picture of his grandson, Wiley, and Willow despised herself for the way her eyes burned. Nina, unsurprisingly, took note. Nina was always observant. She cornered Willow in the hospital corridor, wearing silk blouses and a worried expression. "You have been distant, dear. Is this Michael? What about the baby? You may tell me." Willow wanted to scream. I wanted to push the test findings in Nina's face and see the mask crack. Instead, she said, "I'm fine," and walked away. The breaking point came during Wiley's birthday party. The Quartermains went all out with balloons, a bouncy castle, and a dinosaur-shaped cake. Michael was in his element, chasing their son around the garden as Carly took photographs. Nina arrived late, arms full of gifts, and her laughing was too loud. She drew Willow into an embrace that smelled like costly perfume and desperation. "I'm so proud of you," Nina said quietly. "My daughter." Willow became rigid. "Don't." Nina drew back and frowned. "What's wrong?" "Everything." The word ripped out of her, harsh and jagged. The party noise subsided, or perhaps she simply stopped hearing it. "You are not my mother. You never were." Nina's cheeks turned white. "Willow, what are you? I know about Jonah. I know about the falsehoods, the DNA test, all of it." She was shaking now, tears streaming down her cheeks that she had not allowed herself to shed. "You stole something from me, from him, from both of us." Michael stood there, Wiley on his hip, a confused expression on his face. "Willow, what's happening?" She could not look at him. I couldn't stomach the way his eyes changed when he realized what this meant, that she was a Corinthian by blood, not by marriage, that the family he'd attempted to shelter her from had always been inside her. Nina was crying now, mascara pouring down her cheeks. "I didn't know. Madeline told me stop." Willow's voice broke like a whip. "Just stop." She drove away from the party without saying anything else, until the tank was empty and she was in the middle of nowhere, with cornfields reaching out like accusations. She slept in her car that night, waking up to ice on the glass and realizing she had nowhere to go. Jonah called the following day. "Collect from Ironwood. I heard about the party," he explained. "I'm sorry. Don't be." Her voice was strained from crying. "It needed to happen. I have something for you," he told me. "This is a letter. From your mother. Harmony wrote it years before the drugs, cults, and the end. Jonah had preserved it for all this time, folded in a plastic bag to keep it from getting damp in prison. Willow drove to fetch it the following morning, her hands solid for the first time in weeks. The letter was straightforward. Harmony apologized for everything, for fleeing, lying, and abandoning Jonah to languish while she chased ghosts. She wrote about Willow's birth and how she held her for exactly 7 minutes before the social worker whisked her away. She named her Willow because she wanted her to be strong, bendable, and able to withstand any storm. "I hope you don't read this," Harmony wrote. "I hope you have a mother who loves you more than I can. But if you do, remember that I loved you first. And I apologize." Willow read it in the jail parking lot, the paper trembling in her grip. When she looked up, Jonah was watching her through the visitor's window, his eyes damp. She put her palm against the glass, and he did the same. The fallout was terrible. Nina tried to explain, defend, and beg. Carly was enraged, not at Willow, but at Nina, the cosmos, and how secrets always found a way to explode. Michael was silent, which was terrible. He gazed at her as if she were a stranger with his wife's features. "I should have told you," she whispered one night, while Wiley was sleeping and the place was too quiet. "You should have," he acknowledged. But I understand why you didn't. They hadn't made love for weeks. He slept on the couch, claiming Wiley was having nightmares, but they both knew the truth. She was contaminated now, not by her father's misdeeds, but by the blood that bound her to Sonny, to the life Michael had spent years attempting to flee. Jonah was released on parole 6 months later. Willow picked him up in her practical mom SUV, complete with car seat and emergency munchies. He seemed smaller and older outside the jumpsuit, but his smile when he saw her was the same as in the visiting room. They went to the cemetery first, to Harmony's grave. Willow had brought daisies, which Jonah said were Harmony's favorite flower. They stood there silently, the wind tugging on their garments. I don't know how to do this, Willow acknowledged. Become a daughter. Have a father. We'll figure it out, he responded. One day at a time. They began small. Coffee on Sundays. Phone conversations about nothing. Weather. Wiley's new dinosaur fixation. The way the light hit the water at the pier. Jonah obtained a work at a garage, stayed in a halfway home, and went to AA. He did not push. She did not ask for more than she was capable of giving. Nina attempted to see Wiley. Willow said no. Not yet. Perhaps not ever. No matter how many times Nina apologized, the betrayal remained a raw wound. Some lies were too large to forgive. Michael came around slowly. He met Jonah at Kelly's, where they had an awkward conversation over coffee and pie. Jonah didn't pretend to be something he wasn't. Just a man who had missed his daughter's entire childhood and was determined not to miss the rest. Michael listened more than he spoke, but when he got home that night, he drew Willow close and hugged her as if he was scared she'd vanish. I love you, he whispered into her hair. Each of you. Even the bits that worry me. Wiley called Jonah Grandpa Joe without his knowledge. Kids were like that, perceptive and intolerant of adult complexities. He dragged Jonah to the park and demanded stories about army tanks and distant lands. Jonah gave sanitized versions, omitting details like war, prison, and how a man could lose 20 years in the blink of an eye. Willow watched them from the bench, her son's laughter merging with her father's deeper chuckle, and something changed inside her. Not precisely healing, that would take longer, but a loosening, a place previously occupied by grief. A year after the party, they held a modest gathering at the Coeur d'Alene boathouse. Just family. Michael, Wiley, Jonah, Carly, who brought lasagna and grudging respect, and Sasha, Willow's rock. No Nina. No Sonny, who had volunteered to come but understood when Willow declined. The lake was glass calm, reflecting the sunset in pink and gold. Jonah handed Wiley a wooden boat he had carved in woodworking class at the halfway home. Wiley launched it right away, yelling with delight as it bobbed across the surface. Michael's arm wrapped around Willow's shoulders, warm and sturdy. I used to think family was something you were born into, Willow replied gently, or something you've married. But it isn't. It is this. Every day I choose to stay. Jonah stared at her with glowing eyes. I choose you, he said. Every day I have left. Later, when the stars came out and Wiley was sleeping on a blanket, Willow and Jonah sat at the dock's edge, feet dangling in the sea. The night was warm, and cicadas hummed in the trees. I wish I'd known you sooner, she said. Me too. He tapped her on the shoulder. But we've got now. She remembered Harmony's letter, which was hidden in her nightstand drawer. I thought about Nina's tears, whether they were real or not. She remembered being a tiny girl who shuffled from place to place, always longing for someone to stay. I'm glad you wrote the letter, she said. I'm glad you came. They stayed there until the moon was high, two silhouettes against the ocean, connecting the years they'd lost with the frail thread of the years they had left. It wasn't a fairy tale. There were no overarching statements or cinematic reconciliations, just a father and daughter learning how to be. Willow felt like she belonged anywhere for the first time in her life, not because of a name, a DNA test, or a lie intended to keep her safe, but because she chose it. Them. This. The boat that Wiley had launched floated back to shore, caught in the mild current. Willow reached down and scooped it up, though it's still warmed by the sun. She turned it over in her hands, tracing the precise grooves Jonah had created. Do you think he will want to build a bigger one? Jonah inquired. Willow smiled. Are you with me? Definitely. They stayed until dawn, when the sky turned lavender and the water lapped at their feet like a promise. A loon screamed out in the distance, alone and clearly. Willow closed her eyes and listened, allowing the sound to soak into her bones. Her name was Willow Corinthos, daughter of Jonah, mother of Wiley, wife of Michael, nurse, survivor. The labels weren't as important as the truth beneath them. She was here. She was liked. And that was enough for now. Willow had always felt that a piece of her heart was missing, a quiet aching that surfaced between tumult and serenity. Her children's laughter filled the halls of her house, but sometimes, in the silence, she heard a voice she couldn't identify. It wasn't Michael's, Nina's, or anyone else from her time in Port Charles. It was softer, older, and frighteningly familiar, as if her spirit knew something her head had forgotten. Willow had been restless for some months. Even after overcoming leukemia and reconciling with Nina, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was a darkness just beyond her reach, a truth waiting to be discovered. It began with a letter that was not intended for her. She discovered it hidden within a medical file that had been misplaced at the hospital. Her name was not on the envelope, but the handwriting was strikingly identical to hers. It was addressed to Harmony, whom she had known as her mother. The paper yellowed over time, the ink blurred, but the words remained legible. I will do my time, but please tell her the truth when she is ready. She deserves to know who her biological father is. I never stopped loving her. The signature was only a single initial, J. Willow initially thought it was a mix-up. Harmony had been a liar in so many ways, but now she was gone, and the past appeared like a tangle of deception and misplaced intents. Still, the letter kept her awake for several nights. Who was Jay? What truth was Harmony intended to tell her? Willow sat in the kitchen on a dreary morning, her tea going cold. Michael was racing around, juggling a phone call and packing Wiley's lunchbox. Life had returned to normal, or at least the sort of normal she'd come to accept. But something within her was crumbling. She finally informed Michael about the letter. He paused mid-sentence and looked at her with concern. Willow, are you certain you want to look into that? He inquired thoughtfully. Harmony is gone. Sometimes the past does not need to be revisited. She smiled sadly. That's what I thought too. But I just can't quit thinking about it. Is it possible that I have unknown family members? Michael sighed and sat alongside her. You already have family. Willow shivered slightly when Michael mentioned Wiley, Amelia, and Nina. I know, he said softly. It's complicated. Complicated did not begin to describe it. Nina had battled tooth and nail to be a part of Willow's life since learning she was her biological mother. Willow had initially resisted, wanting nothing to do with the woman whose reckless deeds had already broken their family apart. However, time and mutual pain had softened her edges. Nina had been there for Willow throughout her illness, recuperation, and even when she felt like giving up. But now, the letter has changed everything. If Harmony lied about one parent, may she have also lied about the other? Willow began her quest softly. She did not tell Nina. She didn't want to see her mother's customary guarded expression. She did not want another emotional battle. She only needed answers. Her quest led her to Jonas Miller, an inmate at Pentonville Prison. The name was found in old adoption records, buried beneath redacted pages and sealed files. It took a buddy at the hospital to pull strings and get her the information she required. Jonas had been arrested over 25 years earlier, around the time Willow was born. She sat in her car outside the prison, her hands shaking as she gazed at the tall, gray structure. It looked like something out of a dream or a nightmare. She nearly turned around, but something deep inside urged, go. Find out. The guard led her through the gates, her heart racing with each step. The atmosphere was laden with unsaid regrets. Willow gasped when Jonas entered the room. He didn't meet her expectations. Yes, he appeared weary, his hair silvered, his eyes tired. Yet his gaze was warm, with a calm radiance that pulled her in. He glanced at her like he had seen a ghost. You're her, he said softly, his voice shaking. You're Willow. She froze. Do you know who I am? He nodded slowly, tears welling up in his eyes. I expected this day to arrive. Harmony vowed to tell you, but she couldn't. Who are you? Willow managed, her throat tightening. What are you saying? He leaned forward, his hands clenched together as if praying. Willow, I'm your father. I've been waiting to tell you for 25 years. The room swirled. Willow became unable to breathe for a brief moment. She wanted to escape, scream, and deny it. But deep down she knew. The likeness was subtle but undeniable. The shape of his eyes, the calm sadness in his smile. Why were you imprisoned? She inquired after what seemed like an eternity. He gulped heavily. I tried to protect you. Harmony got caught up with a dangerous crew. I assumed the blame for something she committed that would have resulted in her life sentence. I believed she'd raise you correctly. Willow shed tears. I thought at least one of us could stay free. She informed me that my father abandoned me, that he never wanted me. Jonas appeared devastated. That couldn't be further from the truth. Every year I wrote to her, hoping she might send you something. When she stopped responding, I realized she hadn't told you anything. They talked for hours about her childhood and the weird memories that now made sense. Jonas whispered quietly, as if scared the walls would steal his words. He told her about the music he used to play, the books he read, and how he envisaged her first day at school. He told her about the night Harmony vanished with her, and how helpless he felt in prison. Willow returned to her car, staring at her reflection in the rearview mirror as visiting hours came to an end. She saw herself, but she also saw fragments of a man she had recently met. A man who bore the same anguish she had felt her entire life.